All right, we are live. Welcome, everyone. You are here with me today for one of the last chats I'm going to have before the holiday break begins. And I have with me my very special guest, Kaitlyn Sanders. She works for Premier Talent Partners. And we are talking about how the remote revolution was tailor-made for military spouses. Kaitlyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Premier Talent Partners and what you do?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kaitlyn. I am a marketing coordinator here at Premier Talent Partners. Premier is a recruiting firm. We've been in business for over 22 years. And what we're really passionate about is breaking down the barriers in the hiring process and adding transparency into it as well. And with that, I'm really excited to be here today to chat with Jamie because recently, we've really leaned into remote opportunities, and we think that that would be a perfect fit for military spouses. So we just wanted to come on here, chat a little bit about that with you, what we're seeing, the trends in that area, and hopefully at the end we can squeeze in what we're currently working on, which are our Premier Hot Jobs.
So I did a chat with Kaitlyn not too long ago about Premier Talent Partners in general. And then I also had a wonderful opportunity to chat with Sarah Manka, who's the CEO of Ajna, which is the software that Premier Talent Partners has created, and it removes bias from the hiring process. We think it's perfect for military spouses because it removes things like, no, don't let me say anything wrong about Ajna.
Okay.
But Ajna removes bias from the hiring process, and it takes away things that ping as red flags on a resume for a military spouse. And so, Kaitlyn, let's talk about generally. Let's talk about how Premier Talent Partners represents a lot of underrepresented groups, including military spouses. And then we can jump in and talk about the remote revolution.
Totally. So we, believe that there's a job for every person out there. And I guess one thing that we've always championed is being that advocate for our candidates. So as we've really leaned into our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives, which includes this kind of initiative for the military community as well, we just really are passionate about making sure that we're presenting our candidates in the best light. One thing that Ajna does that's very unique, like you said, Jamie, is it takes everything down to your experience and skills in your culture and values. So that's purely kind of what we're using to match candidates with open roles. With that, you can also kind of set specifications for your search. If you only want to hear about remote opportunities, that's all we'll run by you, that kind of thing. Of course, you'll be able to see other roles that you match within this system that may not be remote, just to see what we're working on. But roles that you'll really be considered for will be up your alley. And with that being said, what I think is really cool for military spouses is it cuts through all of the muck that sometimes comes with moving around in the military and just presents you as the candidate who you are, what you bring to the table. And then later on in the process, hopefully when we've kind of eliminated that implicit bias, you'll be able to talk to the client themselves and then really capitalize on your military spouse or veteran experience, because we do recognize that that is something that you do want to speak to in interviews, and not completely eliminate that, but hopefully, like I said, cut through that implicit bias that sometimes pops up in the beginning.
Awesome. And a hard thing for many military spouses generally is cutting through the applicant tracking system and the computer system and getting to a person, because we are, a resume for a military spouse in general is one where you have to read between the lines and understand we move a lot. I didn't leave this job by choice. I had to go from Texas to Germany, or I had to go from Colorado to Texas, right? We have a lot of in between the line stories, and those stories make perfect sense to hiring teams when you're in front of them and you're talking to them and telling them about how amazing your life is in the military community, but also how complicated it is for your career. So the remote revolution. Premier Talent Partners has lots and lots of remote openings right now. You said that's something that's become a big trend for you this year, especially. Why don't you talk about those roles and those types of trends you're seeing on your end in the talent community?
Totally. So like you touched on, we've seen a huge shift. Obviously, COVID really sped things up when it came to shifting to remote work. But out of the active candidates that we currently have on assignment, 80% have transitioned into a remote position. With that being said, they're not always expected to stay remote forever. Sometimes they do have kind of the contingency that when things return to normal, they're going to return to the office. With that being said, I would say are heavier on the side of positions that are going to stay remote, just because our clients are really embracing the fact that if a job gets done, you can do it from anywhere. And if there's communication and collaboration, that's kind of what matters at the end of the day. And with that, I think one thing that's really cool to consider about what we do and how we help this process of kind of fueling the remote revolution is the fact that, yes, we have this amazing system that we lean on. But with that being said, we're still here. We're not letting the algorithm do all the work. There's a person behind the work that we do always. And that just kind of depends on the capacity that you're working with us. If you are open to being more of a pipeline candidate, maybe you'll be in our system and hear about things here and there. Or if you're kind of sourced for a direct role, you'll be kind of running with everything right away. But I think at the end of the day, we just want to make it known that although we are shifting to being kind of aided by an algorithm system, we're still here. We're still making sure that if you want a remote role, that's what you hear about, and that's what we'll advocate for.
Wonderful. You have, on the Premier Talent Partner side of the house, you've recently decided to start advocating on behalf of members of the military community, including spouses and veterans. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the recent things you've done to join that community and to start putting military community talent on the radar?
Yeah, totally. So aside from kind of our internal, I guess, rallying around the military community and the veteran community, what we've really done recently is started a lot of really promising partnerships. Recruit Military is the company that we're working with, Blue Star Families. And one thing that we're really proud of is that last week we were inducted into the Department of Defense's Military Spouse Employment Partnership. So we've joined about 80 or so companies that were inducted. So now we're affiliated with about 500 companies who are really, really just doubling down on their commitment to this community.
Well, and in general, I don't know if you're watching this and you hear the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, that's really hard to get into. The vetting process for that is pretty intensive, and it takes a while to get through that process. So for her to say they've been inducted into the MSCP program is a big deal. And if you're watching, I also want to encourage you, drop in, say hello, drop a comment. If you have questions for Kaitlyn, ask her. She's here on the line live with us for now. And then if you have questions later, ask them in the comments, even if the video is already over. That being said, I dropped a link in the description of the video to and you can tell us more about this, Kaitlyn, to the Ajna website where you can jump in and submit your resume and apply, or submit your profile and apply. Kaitlyn, can you tell us about that process and how it works through the job seeker?
Totally. So one thing that we just are very aware of is that what we're doing is very revolutionary, and our process might look a little bit different than some other other processes that you've dealt with in the past. So we actually ask our candidates to go in and create a profile for themselves in our talent platform. And what that does, like we touched on earlier, is really allows you to fill in everything that you care about when it comes to your culture and values. We walk you through what your ideal company would look like in that way. And then we go into skills and experience, and you can really build out, I guess you could say, your cumulative experience. So if you have 15 years total in an admin role, you'd lump that all together. If you had a couple of years in a customer service role, also lumping that together. And that's what cuts through kind of the implicit bias part. With that being said, it just looks a little bit different. Once you get in, you're going to have a profile. And if you are matched with the position, someone will reach out to you and then walk you through that recruiting path, if you will. So we're always here, though. I'm always here if anyone has any questions for me. And with that, we always make sure to kind of let people know that if you're not hearing from us, or if there's any questions that you have, it's a two-way street. Please feel free to reach out to your candidate success manager and let them know what you're looking for. Sometimes you just need to optimize your profile a little bit. Sometimes we just need to re-strategize. But at the end of the day, we're really just passionate about making sure that in this process, as we transition and continue to move forward, military spouses don't fall through the cracks.
Awesome. Military spouses often fall through the cracks because on a traditional resume, you can see the breakdown of experience based on 2 years here and a year there, and I moved and it was 3 years over here. But the way that the Ajna system works, it takes all of that stuff out of it, and it says, I have 5 years in marketing. Even if it was 5 single years at 5 different places, it's that cumulative experience, and it cuts through the big red flags that we see on a traditional resume. So that's awesome for military spouses, and you should certainly capitalize on the fact that you can get through a system without those things kind of throwing up the red flag. So that's awesome.
Totally.
Before we get ready to close out here, Kaitlyn, do you have any final words of wisdom or tips, tricks, advice that you'd like to offer our military spouses here today?
Yeah, again, like I kind of touched on, your job search is a two-way street. If you're not hearing about roles that you're interested in, or you're not seeing much and you expected to see more in your search, always reach out to your point of contact wherever you are and kind of ask them, is there anything that I could be doing to become a stronger fit for these positions? Sometimes, like I said, it just takes optimizing your profile. But we here at Premier are really transparent. If you do need some skills training or to kind of get something under your belt, we'll let you know what that is to hopefully point you in that right direction. And of course, if we have any contacts, we always try to make that connection as well.
Wonderful. And I agree on all fronts. As a candidate, if you are looking for a position, proactive outreach is one of the things that makes you stand out as a candidate. Now, there's an extreme where you can be way too proactive and reach out, but that's really hard to be. Generally, as a job seeker, your job strategy is diversified. You're not just reaching out to Kaitlyn 100% of the time. And so we kind of forget that, oh, I've only sent them one email. Another one really won't hurt. So
right.
Great tip. I love it. And I love everything that Premier Talent Partners is doing. That's why I've brought them on 2 or 3 times now. It's just because they've created this amazing software platform that is so beneficial for military spouses. And in general, they're doing great things for underrepresented communities in our nation. So thank you, Kaitlyn, for coming on again. And for the rest of you watching, I will be taking a little holiday break, so you won't see my face for a while, but I appreciate your followership and you watching. And we hope that everything we're doing here is ultimately to connect you, the military spouse, to career opportunities. Kaitlyn, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you, Jamie.